Call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Bob, I'm prepared to sort of put the agenda aside and allow you to introduce Evan, and Evan can speak first. If no one has an objection to me changing the order, this is actually other under old business.
Terrific. I went to, I'm pulling it up right now. I went to the event on November 7th, which was the kickoff event that Evan had for The Future Looks Like Whately. And it is, I'll let Evan talk about it. I'm not the expert. I thought it was fantastic. I think the library has a role to play. We've already discussed part of this, but Evan said he might be able to make it, so it's great that he can. And I'm going to stop talking and let him talk.
All right. Well, thanks for adjusting the schedule. The town of Whately received an MVP action grant. There is a slight typo on the poster that it said MVP 2.0. It's actually an action grant, which means that the grant is to build off of the previous MVP plan that Whately did in 2021 with the FERCog, essentially to identify places in town where pollinator habitat designs could be created that would address climate change impacts in the community, and also sites or case study sites for private landowners and businesses to hopefully be inspired by and consider adopting on their own properties. So we have to pick 3 sites that are owned by they cannot be private property. And the library has repeatedly been mentioned and identified by different stakeholders as a high priority location. So I guess in the meeting itself, there was a community mapping exercise. We had about 10 participants in the meeting from the town, including town staff and citizens. And I think there were 3 different groups. Each group picked the library. The town administrator has also mentioned the library. Sylvie also, who is no longer with the town, mentioned the library and the library twice and have observed and site. So I guess we're just trying to see what your interest is as trustees library, and to look forward, the idea that the library could be one of the site locations. You would receive a free design, and it would basically be wrapped into the project as a case study site.
Okay. Is there anybody that wants to ask Evan any questions?
No, but I'd like to say it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Evan, can you tell us a little bit more, receiving a design and then do we carry it out, or what happens after that if that goes ahead?
Yeah, so the way that the MVP program works is that there's type 1 and 2 and 3 projects. So type 3 projects are projects where you get funding from the state to basically construct or install, the designs, but you need to do the design first.
We've lost you, Evan.
I feel badly that he's driving.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. If you can't hear me now, I can definitely log in from my computer in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Well, he's gone. So as soon as he returns, we can go right
So
back.
if I can jump in, if you look at that page that I submitted to everybody, or I sent to Bob to send out to everybody, there's basic questions there for the library. The questions are, Let me get to them here. And understand, none of this, the timeline is 2026 for final designs. The questions for us, do we want to participate in the program? If yes, how? Do we want plantings around the building? Do we want to turn more of the east side of the property, which is currently a hayfield, into a pollinator meadow with a walking path? That was one of the things that was put forward by Evan. Do we want to do both? So those are in a nutshell. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to Zoom here. In a nutshell, what do we want to do? Money for this would come from a follow-on grant after this grant is done. So I personally, I can't imagine we'd be doing anything until 2027. And I don't see any downside in being part of this. I think it does a lot for the library.
Right, but in answering George's question, do we do this, or does the town conduct the getting of the second grant and all of that?
The town conducts the getting of the second grant.
Okay.
And his comment, if we wanted to do a meadow, it's actually easier, because then what you do is you'd mow the whole meadow down. You'd mow that hayfield down, and then you'd wheel harrow it 3 or 4 times. And then you'd plant the wildflowers, and then you'd brush hog it. And that's not, it's actually not an expensive. In this case, the bigger you go, the less expensive it gets, because you have equipment that could do a lot of this.
And are there expenses beyond that? I mean, people who I know who have meadows, you know, you sort of brush hog it every so often. Is that something that we would then take on over the next 10, 20 years? Or how does that work? Or is that not been discussed? And that's
That hasn't, that far out hasn't been discussed.
Yeah.
I can't speak for everybody in town, but I know the town, and I don't want to speak for, the last person I want to speak for is Keith Bardwell, but I know they have a brush hog.
Yeah.
And I know if a lot of people do, including me. And so as long as I'm around, I'd be happy to come down and do it.
Yeah.
But I can't, you know, I'm not 100% sure what my future holds, but it's a piece of equipment that we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars to have this thing brush hogged. We're talking a couple $100 to have somebody come and brush hog that whole meadow.
Well, I love the notion of it being a meadow with a walking path. Who currently hays it, and how will it affect that person?
That is Bob.
The Belder firm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Keith has already checked in with them. The current relationship, and when Keith checked in with them just to say, hey, this may be coming in a few years, they said, okay.
Okay, great.
Currently it's a very symbiotic relationship. There is no contract. There is no agreement between us and the farmer. The farmer comes and cuts the hay and hays it, you know, bales it for themselves, and takes it. It helps us, because if they wouldn't do that, then Keith and DPW would be in there on a yearly basis mowing it anyway.
Okay.
So it kind of works for everybody.
Okay. Are there any other questions? We can wait until Evan gets home and gets on his home computer, and we can continue on with the agenda if that meets with your approval. Okay, and then we'll come back to this as soon as he gets home. Okay, so we're looking at the minutes from October 23rd. Cindy, put a comma in after the 23rd, October 23, comma 2024. Please, thank you. Other comments? George, were you?
Well,
cut you off?
under the library director report and the fourth item that begins reached out and had, there's an extra, in the second to last line, there's a F that shouldn't be there. DFO and just.
Yeah.
And then a couple of items below that, future looks like Whately Community Input Meeting. I think it's great that the future looks like a Whately Community Input Meeting, but I'm not sure what that sentence meant. Is there a?
That was the name of the meeting.
Oh, the
Future
future looks like,
Whately.
my bad. So that's
There
what we
should
were
be
just talking about.
parentheses around future looks like Whately.
That's a great idea.
Then that,
Quotation marks?
I'm sorry. Yeah, what did I say? Parentheses, excuse me,
Yeah.
quotation marks.
Yeah, and both L's should be capitalized then, if it's the title of
Yeah.
the evening. Cindy, did you get that?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Anything else?
Well, under new business on page 2, this may be persnickety, but about 7 lines down, Cindy, maybe discussion of the maintenance, discussion whether the maintenance amount requested would be enough. Might be a felicitous change.
So just take that out.
No, just change the word if to whether,
Okay.
you know.
That's good.
And then just finally, as long as we're on commas, on the meeting adjourned on page 3, I'd love a comma after my name. Not that I don't wish to be paired up with Deborah even more closely, but it'd be good to have the comma to.
Sorry, George.
That's okay.
I didn't even catch that.
And a period after Deborah.
Okay. Sorry, everybody, about
No,
that.
that's why we do this. That's why
Evan
we do
has
this.
rejoined us.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I can wait, as long as you guys need me to.
Okay, well, let's just finish with the minutes and then we can get back to Evan. So
I
is
get
there
it. I know what it's like.
is there anything else that you'd like changed or omissions, corrections? If not, I'll accept a motion to accept the minutes of October 23rd.
I motion to accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so now we have a roll call vote. Deborah?
Yes, accept.
Fred, you're muted. Bob?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Fred? Okay, yeah. We can't hear you, Fred. Okay, it's again, you're gonna have to log out and log back in. I'll vote yes, so we have 4 people. And we'll call Fred's an abstention. Okay, and so the minutes are approved, and we will now go back to Evan.
Thank you.
Evan, if I can just jump
Yeah.
in real quick, while you were transitioning, we discussed the options for the library. Do we just do plantings around the building? Do we do something in the field that runs from the east where it's currently hayed? Do we do both? How is that paid for? Is that something that one of the questions that came up was the initial implementation phase would come from a grant, but what happens for brush hogging 10 years down the road if we did the field? And sort of the consensus was that would have to come from the town. But brush hogging is not, at least in my feeling, brush hogging is not a very expensive endeavor.
Yeah, so this project is a planning and design grant. So it will not cover the cost associated with any plants, seeds, or labor. But we want the town to apply for that funding as a follow-up. And that's simply the way that this program works, is that, for those of you that are familiar with the MVP program, it's basically it's like a 3-step process. You do the planning grant, then that opens the town up to funding for the action grant. We received the action grant. We're doing it now. The kickoff meeting was last week, and then you can apply for what they would call a type 3 grant, like an implementation grant. So I feel fully confident that you will get that funding because the state has already supported you now the second out of 3 times. And I don't believe there's even a limit to how many times
towns can apply for these projects. So, like the town might decide in a couple of years that they want to do an MVP because a bridge gets washed out by a flood, or a culvert, a major culvert needs to be brought up to standards. So, I mean, it's just like continuous funding for a number of reasons, mostly because we need to build climate resiliency. And the governor has earmarked money for that. So the way that this project is going to work is that there needs to be consensus from the community regarding the selection of the sites. I cannot say, yes, we're definitely going to do the library. I have to bring it forward in a follow-up public meeting, which will occur in January. But I feel strongly that it's definitely the best location because of all the reasons I already stated. So let's assume that the public agrees at our next meeting in January to move forward with the library as one of the 3 sites. Then I will step into the role of working with you or some of you to design something that works for you. So we won't do what you don't want. The design has to meet the goals of the library as an institution. But based on what I've observed, it seems like certainly looking at that field as an opportunity for a meadow is good. It's one of the only large public sites that's highly visible where a meadow would be feasible. Like our other sites are tiny sites, and some of them are not even visible to the public. They're like buried off of some road where people don't even go. We could also consider doing more garden-like plantings around the building, and we could do one or the other or both. It's really up to you. So I would say the design will be what you guys want or what the library as a entity wants. And that will be like sort of a follow-up conversation after we determine what our 3 sites are going to be.
Bob, you're muted.
Sorry about that. If I can jump in, having gone to the meeting, one of the things that I really was impressed by and liked with what Evan said was he will give plants, he will give plantings, he will give concepts to the town. He'll make them public. And I think if we as a library have plantings around the building that and in beds that people could then replicate on their own, I think that helps the library become integral in the community. Somebody says, I want to be more pollinator friendly. How do I do this? We're leading by example, and we have documentation, and we can say to them, here is what we have done at the library. And obviously give Evan props and the whole program and everything else. But these are the plants. These are where you can buy them. These are how you do this. If you want to go crazy and do a whole meadow, we've also done that. And maybe crazy is the wrong way to describe it, excuse me. But I think the more we're involved, the more it gives a broader range of possibilities and perspectives to the entire community.
That's a very good point. I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay, so Evan, do you need a vote from us, or?
I mean, if you want to, that would be great. That way I won't have to come back to another meeting in the next 2 months. But if I could step away from this meeting at least and say that the library, I just want to know if the library is interested. Because, like, for example, if if we had this meeting and for whatever reason there wasn't the interest, I would want to know that so that at the next community meeting in January, when we present our sort of more developed recommendations for final approval, I would say, let's pull the library out, let's not consider it. So if you do vote tonight and you say that you are in support, then I can come forward at the next MVP meeting and say that you are in support of this. And that is really important. So
Okay.
it's not needed, but at some point I will need to know. It could
All
be
right, so
in the future.
would somebody be willing to make a motion that the library would definitely, the trustees want to be involved in this project and use the library's property for design? Is that good enough, Evan?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll
Bob?
put forward a motion that the library would like to be involved in this grant, in all aspects of it, in plantings around the buildings, and also with regards to a bigger meadow area on the east side.
Okay.
Anything else? There we go.
I second.
Is there a
the
second?
motion. I second.
George seconds. Okay, is there further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to a vote. Deborah?
Yes, please.
Fred?
You hear me now?
Yes.
I guess I'll abstain since I didn't hear the whole discussion and I'm not comfortable voting on something I'm not familiar with.
Ginger?
Yes, I think it's a
Bob?
great idea.
Yes.
Bob? George?
Yes.
And I vote yes. There you have it,
Thank you.
Evan. Okay.
One other thing is that we did put in the grant proposal that we would do an event at the library in June during Pollinator Week. I believe that Sylvie, the former community development liaison, reached out about that to maybe Cindy or someone. And so
That would have been me.
yeah, if we could just, so Pollinator Week is usually the second week of June. I'm looking on the calendar now to see if they've announced the dates for the 2025. It looks like it's going to be June. It might be June 23rd to the 29th.
Oh,
Oh, wait, no, here I'm saying June 16th to the 22nd. Let me see. Yeah, there's definitely two different, gosh. Somewhere here I'm seeing June 6th. I don't know, but it's okay. The last full week in June.
23rd through,
Okay, so let's say it's the 23rd to the 29th. We would just, if that's okay with you, we would do an event at the library. It would probably be something along the lines. Let me just pull up. I have a PowerPoint where I put this in it at the meeting. I could just, if you just wait a second. Wait, no, it's the wrong PowerPoint. Well, anyway, we didn't stipulate the activity in detail other than there would be some sort of craft activity for kids, which we would lead and provide support for. Like we would provide the materials if you need them, markers, paper, whatever. We could create, like preload the design of the craft materials so that the kids just maybe cut them out or, have a menu of options. But essentially it would be a way to get a wider group of people aware of the project, because as you know, nighttime community meetings are limited in attendance. It tends to be adults. It tends to be a small subset of the population of the town. We're hoping that with a library event, we can reach younger families and kids and maybe young adults. So I would just like to mention that I'm still hoping we can do that.
Yes, Evan, whoever is in charge of coordinating that, have them get in touch with me so we can start working out a plan, please.
Yeah, so for now it'll be me, but eventually the town is going to hire, or they did hire, a new community development person to replace Sylvie. And I believe they're starting in about 3 weeks. So I'll be working through them starting in December.
okay.
But yeah, you can basically just pick a day.
All right.
You can pick a day and a time during that week if you want it to be like a mid-morning or a weekend or a afternoon, and I'll just work around your schedule.
All right, Evan, I will look at my calendar when I'm back in the library and get in touch with you.
Okay, sounds great. That's all I've got right now.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys taking the time. I don't want to hold up your further needs for the meeting. So if you want, I can go now.
Okay, thank you very much, Evan, for coming.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
All
it.
right. Well, it's nice meeting you all. I'll talk to you later.
I.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Okay, now we're on to financial report, Bob.
Financial reports. Um, So the municipal budget, where did it go? Hold on. There it is. The municipal budget, I'm getting more comfortable with the numbers. There's still a couple of questions. For example, if you look at phone, where did the 7235 that Dara had come from? That,
I have an answer to that.
okay, excellent.
It was two bills added together.
There you go. Okay. So that was probably July and September, huh? Or some version, we didn't have a bill in July, we didn't have a bill in September. So it was some version of catch up.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. If I may ask, how did you find that? Did you just figure that out or? how did you
Yeah, I
find-
remembered that Dara had asked me if there had been, there's some mix up with the Verizon invoices.
Okay.
So she asked me if I had had one from, I think it was July. And I said yes. But because of the way it had been sent, I wasn't sure if I had submitted it in June or if it was June, July. So that one got submitted along with the September one with the last bill schedule. So when you add the two of those together, that's the 73 or 74.
Yep. With a rounding. Okay. And then the special unless anybody has any questions with those. And that is just me taking the info from Dara, the town accountant, and transferring it onto the spreadsheet. Moving over to the special revenue accounts. These are now updated as of the end of last year. So they are updated as of the end of June.
But it's the Ferric is still misspelled at line 266.
Okay. What
It's
should
FARR.
Okay. Okay. I will make that change.
Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize, Bob. Sorry about that.
Nope.
Just
I don't want people to be angry.
no.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. I thought I had made the change and I couldn't remember.
Okay.
So I made a couple of changes to this where I moved things around just a little bit. I moved hold on. Hold on. I'm getting confused on which one I'm looking at here. Let me just jump to, if anybody has any questions. Here we are, November. Yeah, I moved the Damon, the non-expendable, 854 and 855. From what I can tell, and I still haven't met with Cindy on this, so I apologize. The Damon and the Kant's non-expendable, those are solely able to be used for books. But I don't quite understand what that means because that money that, for example, the $10,000 spins off, last year it spun off the 3851 that went into 824. I don't know if people can see that, if everybody understands exactly what happens here, but the 10, so for example, in line 854, the account name is Damon. It's a non-expendable account to be used for books, and it has $10,000 in the account. We can't, my understanding is we can't touch that. We can touch it when it goes into 824 up top, which is an expendable account. And you can see that the $10,000 spun off $38.51 last year. and that gets added to the 3,041.82.
Okay. Now, does that Damon 824 have to be used for books?
That's what I'm in the process of trying to figure out. I don't think so, because it's never been listed as books. Only the non-expendable was listed, but that's what I'm going to meet with Dara about as I try
Okay.
to understand exactly what all the accounts are and what they have to be. Because you see the Ferrick, Lions Club, Summer Reading, Philip Kowski, Annie Danforth, J&J Majewski, Robinson, Ena Kane, those all have to be used for books.
Yep. Okay.
So trying to understand better what everything is and what it all means.
Bob, I know that trustees really appreciate what you're doing, and I know this is kind of challenging, I'm sure, because I wonder if the original grants themselves, or whatever you want to call them, if paperwork on them actually exists somewhere in that building.
I have been told that exists. Dara
Okay.
found some. I asked specifically about, for example, when you look at the Dickinson Library, non-expendable, the $75,000. Because my concern there is that, and this is what I don't understand for everybody. Some of these accounts generate income, and some of these accounts don't. And I don't understand what generates income and what doesn't. That's one of the things that I'm going to be trying to understand with a combination of Dara and the town clerk, is understand what these accounts are, what's happening to them. I understand there are limits as far as how the money can be invested, and I completely agree with that. For example, if you look at line 856, Dickinson Library, that's a $75,000 account. And if you go up, that generated $271.58 last year. I need to sit down and run the numbers again, but it's not a lot of interest, but at least we're getting money. At least our money is making some money for us. The question is,
$271 on 75 grand?
yeah, that's what it says. Here, I'll run it real quick.
Sounds like my bank.
Yeah. 0.36% is what I get.
Probably like stocks or bonds. They made the mass changed. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know how many years ago, way back when I was a trustee in my other small town, something happened, and I'm sure it was over 20 years ago, but some library took a lot of their funds and said, oh, we're going to do the stock market. And this guy thought he was going to make a lot of money, and he lost all of the money from the library.
Wow.
So what the state came back and did was they said, you can maybe buy some stocks and bonds, but we're going to give you a list of safe ones that we know you won't be able to lose the money. So it was really extreme. And I know that our library at the time had a stockbroker on our board, and he was careful, but he knew how to do the stock market. So we made a lot of money for about 15 years before the law went into effect. And then we had to go back, and we ended up making about 3%. He did a small amount in stocks, but very, very stocks. But we did really well for about 15 years, but there's not a big choice now on that because of the state. Well, it should be. You don't want to lose your money.
That was the indication from Dara. She said you're very limited. She had the fund manager and all the information that she had her fingers on in
Yeah,
less than
yeah.
a minute and a half, 2 minutes
Yeah.
from her office. So my plan is to my plan with this, just to let everybody know, is first off to understand what we have and to understand, like, 284 summer reading, $8.43. I don't want to piss anybody off who gave the summer reading. I don't want to piss anybody off from the Lions Club, but do we really need, do we really need to keep those accounts? Is it possible to read through some of these accounts and understand what gifts were given, and can we combine so that there's less work for us, less work for the town, but I don't have any answers. I'm still very early on because everybody, the town clerk is busy, Dara is busy, I'm busy, so we're all trying to piece together a couple hours a week and just try to figure this out as best we can. So that's right now, it's just understanding what the dollars are, what we have,
And where they are.
and where they are. And then as we get a better understanding of that, what are the possibilities moving forward?
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions for Bob? All right, if not, we move on to director's report. Cindy, director's report.
Yes, sorry, I had to let Jack know it's my turn to talk, so he needs to use an inside voice. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, so Lions Club, those funds were given to purchase audiobooks or CD books. Summer reading, that fund would be to cover like materials or anything needed for the summer reading programs. So those are those two.
Yep. And Cindy, I will meet with you at some point. I apologize. It's just been a little crazy.
Okay, so I'm hoping everyone got draft number 4 of the strategic plan that I sent out after we added in the new information. Ginger's the Chromebook working out for you good?
Well, actually, all of a sudden my old iPad worked.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. My husband was setting up the other one and I was having a heart attack here, but all of a sudden it came on.
All right.
So thank you very much though.
So Ginger is actually borrowing one of the Chromebooks that we purchased with our computer upgrade funds so that she could have video for tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
And I was just curious how it was working. So, I did follow at last month's meeting. It was mentioned that the South County Senior Center had purchased some iPads. So I did follow up with Jennifer. They received a grant and purchased 47 iPads. They raffled off 44 to members of the senior center, and the 3 remaining are for them to use for the senior center to use at the senior center, either for seniors to use or for staff to use while they're there. The conserve monitoring is going really well. I'm really happy with the readings we've been getting. The humidity level downstairs is within normal range of where it's supposed to be for humidity levels, so that's really good. Then we also had a question about Polish books, and I'm really very proud of this because this is part of our library history. Those books were actually circulating through our library back in the 1950s. In fact, in 1951, 119 of the 5,000 books in our collection that circulated were Polish. So this makes me very proud because this means that as a public library, we were being inclusive to all residents of Whately, even back then before inclusiveness became a buzzword for everyone to focus on. And 2 Janes from the Historical Society came over and helped translate the titles of the books for me. So some of the Polish books have a sticky note on the front cover with what the English title of the book would be. And I really enjoyed their coming over and helping with that because I got to talk with them and I learned a little bit about their family histories, and I learned a little bit about Polish history and Polish last names and why some names would have like maybe a German name and some would have a Russian name and why that all and the spellings and how that all came to be. So I really enjoyed having them come over and do that. I resent the FY26 budget request. I haven't changed anything on it yet because last month we just kind of started with a brief discussion of it. And Steve came over and did a temporary fix on the handrail until such time as he was hoping to have an actual rail piece to replace it with, but it wasn't the right rail. So he just did a temporary fix for now. The bracket underneath the cross piece that would have been screwed, that the railing would have been screwed to, was missing. So that's why it rotted the way it did, because it was just resting on the metal. So the bracket piece would have to be replaced when the whole rail would get replaced. And then I've been asked by the Mass Board of Library Commissioners to participate in their diversity, equity, inclusion audits around how do we make library careers more inclusive. And that's all that I have, Mr. Chair, until we get to new business.
Questions on the report?
I'm sorry, what?
Does anybody have any questions on Cindy's report? Okay, then we will move on to old business. And the first piece of old business is to look at the final version of the strategic plan and to vote on it tonight.
And I do have one question on that, Bob. When I inserted peoples, do I put an apostrophe after the S for peoples? I'm not sure if I did or not.
On
I think it's
what?
page 5 under the description of freshwater.
It wouldn't have an apostrophe.
It wouldn't?
No,
Okay.
it's a simple plural. Okay. So, anybody on the strategic plan committee wish to, I think the best way to do this is to put a motion forward to accept it and then go to discussion afterwards. That's technically the way we should do it. So if we could have a motion to accept the new strategic plan and a second, then we can have discussion. Is there such a motion?
I make the motion that we accept the plan.
Okay,
The
is there a
strategic
second?
Plan.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, is there discussion? Okay, I just want to thank the three of you for working so hard on it, and thanks for the input from other members of the Board of Trustees. I think it looks very good, and I think it's going to be a document that we can use, which is first and foremost when you're required to make documents. If they're useful, that's the best part. So thank you all for your hard work. Any other comments?
Sad.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions, Fred?
Is this gonna be put on a town website or how are people gonna know about it? Or do people in town need to know about it? What's happening with it? Other than it's gonna sit on a shelf and where the trustees will use it, but is anybody else gonna see it?
Cindy, where does it go?
All right, so a PDF version will be sent to Boston to MVLC for their approval. A hard copy goes into a 3-ring binder that we will keep at the library. A PDF version goes onto the library website under the town, our part of the town's library, town website. Where the previous strategic plan was, there's still a tab that says strategic plan. I just would have to upload this one into there, so it will be on our website. It'll be a copy will be MVLC, which I believe you can find on their website as well. And we'll have a hard copy in the library office. And Bob, you also asked me to send a copy once the final one has been approved. You also asked me to send a copy to each member of the board, so you'd have one for your own records.
You can send probably to everybody electronically, and then they can decide whether they want to print it out or keep it in a file. So that would be fine.
I'll send it as a PDF so that there won't be any formatting issues.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. Deborah?
Yes, accept the plan.
Fred?
Yes,
Ginger?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And I vote yes. It's unanimous. Okay. Update on environmental testing.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
No, let me get, I'm jumping around on 6 different screens here. Okay, so environmental testing. I called the Atlas. That was the name that was given to us by Alpine. I also called back to Abide. I called Atlas and they said, oh, everybody, there will be multiple people who will reach out to you. This is fantastic. And I haven't heard from anybody.
No.
Right.
They have short arms. That's why they're reaching out so slowly.
Right. And so then at the same time, I called Abide, which was a company that Keith recommended. They said, we don't do any testing. We just do remediation. They gave me some contacts, but it's all going to be piecemeal. I've reached out and I've heard, anyway, I'm slowly putting together a list of people who can do this.
Yeah, I'm not sure if when we met with the guy from Alpine, whether you were all aware of that. Ginger's husband set us up with a representative from a company that specializes in remediating mold situations, lead, et cetera, et cetera. And so he came to the library and so did Jim, and we discussed our issues, and he gave us some recommendations to follow. And Bob and I also met with Pete and Keith at the town offices to discuss what our steps should be. And we all agreed that the first step is to attempt to find a company that can test for the multiple things we want tested. And then we need to define the scope of that testing and have them do it. And then if there's a problem, Pete is very certain that this would fall under a capital improvement expense. So that's where we're going, and it's just it takes a while to get there. So that's what we've been doing in the past month since the last meeting. And Bob is the telephone expert because I have watched him work with when we were doing the lift. I would hate to negotiate with Bob. I really would.
I'm just
But
trying.
I'm glad he's doing it for us.
I have to admit I'm struggling to find large. The recommendation was that we try to find large companies who understand all the regulations, national and state, who have the capacity to do this. It may end up costing the town a little more, but in the long run, it will be one-stop shopping. And I'm struggling to find those companies where we don't have to honcho the whole thing ourselves with 6 different subs.
Yeah.
That's where I am right now. And I'm
right.
going to reach back out to Atlas if I don't hear from them by the end of this week.
So the bottom line that we made clear with Pete and Keith is that we're done kicking the can down the road. We want to move forward with an analysis of the building inside and out, and find out what we have so that no other board of trustees in the future ever has to worry about whether there's lead paint underneath the paint or whether there's lead paint on the outside or whether there's mold in the air or whatever. We want to be the board of trustees that finally gets the answers. So we're going to work to do this and do it correctly. As Bob suggested in the last couple of meetings, we're not slow walking any of this. We're trying to do it absolutely the best way possible so that we have finally, ultimately, the answers about our building. So we're working on it, folks.
Very
Any
hard.
questions?
No, just you're working so hard on it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. All right. So then we move on to the update on holiday season gathering. Did you all get my proposed invite? I know there's a formatting error. One line popped out too far to the left. And I will fix that. Sorry about that. But is that an okay one for Cindy and I to start sending out?
Yes,
Um,
I had one thing, Bob.
Yep.
And there's a space between the second and third items, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5.
Okay.
There's also a, a space between the word friends and the comma.
Okay.
Those were
Magic
the,
fingers. Magic
yeah,
fingers.
those are the two things I saw.
All right. I will clean it up. I'll address those issues right first thing, and I'll clean it up.
Do you
And-
want it sent out plain like it is, or do you want me to festive it up with a Canva backdrop?
Yeah, I think that it's okay to do some Canva work on it.
All right.
I
Do you want
don't,
me to send you some drafts before we send it out?
Sure, if the trustees trust me and you for with doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
And
one
when do
question.
we want to send it out?
Bob?
yeah, am I splitting hairs? Cordially invite you to a holiday community celebration, or should it be a community holiday celebration? Or am I splitting hairs?
I don't know.
I think that's a very good point, Bob, and were it me, I would make that change and change it to a community holiday celebration, because it is a holiday celebration, probably with the community, you know, so I think it would be better as community holiday celebration, but
Okay. I'll do that too. I'll work on that tomorrow
I have
or the next day.
just a question on the order of things. 3 to 4, the conversation and recognition, and then 4 to 5, light refreshments served. I can't remember how it went last year, but will people be happy to be there for an hour? I know people come late too, without drink in hand or
Right.
cookie in hand. It's a long time for people to talk amongst themselves
Yeah.
without libation.
Yeah, we didn't stick to this agenda last year. We kind of didn't really do a presentation and just sort of dove into eating, which people were perfectly happy with. So
Well, it might you know, a lot of parties would people would arrive and they would immediately be allowed to eat cookies and drink stuff, and then maybe later the wonderful Whately Inn hot hors d'oeuvres are there. But then at some point, after people have a glass in hand and a cookie in hand, then welcome and remarks can be made.
okay, sure.
It just might be a way to do it.
Yep. I can fix that too.
I have a suggestion. I don't exactly remember last year how we did this, but maybe, I don't know if your remarks or introductions or whatever you're gonna do, Bob, whether we should highlight some of the improvements that the people there have helped us do during the year to make the building better or more useful. I mean, anywhere from the lighting to the front steps to whatever else we've done, just to tell people that we're making improvements, making it better for you, and some of you have been here to help us do that. Otherwise, maybe some of the people that go there don't know what's different from last year. What did you do last year that I'm not aware of?
Okay, but that doesn't get included on this sheet that we're gonna send
No,
out. Okay.
it doesn't on the sheet, whether you or whoever's gonna be the moderator of the meeting do that, or even hand out a quick one-page thing. Here's stuff that we've been all actively working on, just for people to see. There's another option if you wanted to hand something out.
Okay. Okay. So if I make these changes, and if there's anyone that you can think of that should get invited, Cindy is going to use last year's list of town representatives. I would think that we should invite Jim Ross and Larry, who have always been instrumental. And Cindy, do we have the man who's in charge, Roger Do we have his email, the guy who's in charge of the transfer station? Because he does things like painting for us
No,
when it
but
needs to
I
get
can stop over and hand deliver him an invitation. I know he'd
super.
be happy to see me.
Yep, super. That would be fine. And if there's anybody, Deborah, you already sent a list of with some suggestions to me. And we can certainly follow through on those and send them out. We're gonna start sending them out, I would assume next week, because the clock is ticking. Okay,
If you can
is next week?
include, if, when this goes out, if you can just make sure that we as trustees are included on the invite list. And then, for example, I have a couple of people that I'll just take that and forward it to.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. So you need to get me, if you have any people that you'd like me to and Cindy to send these out to, you get me those emails as soon as possible. That would be great. And not just the name, but if you could do the legwork to look up the email for us, that would be super too. Okay. Bob, when do we want to decorate the tree? We need to put the lights up.
You tell me. I'll meet. I'm happy to. I'm around. So let's get them going. I was at, before you buy colored lights, I was at Home Depot and I picked up some.
Oh, colored lights?
Oh yeah. You said
Okay.
you wanted colored lights, so I picked some
Well,
up.
I like the colored lights. I mean,
But-
my wife and I always argue about what should be on the tree, whether it should be all white or it should. And I grew up with colored lights.
Oh, I can
Oh.
tell.
Yeah, so I just
So-
kind of like.
What about all the lights that are down in the basement already?
We'll use those.
Well,
too.
we'll decorate the hell out of the tree.
We
Some of those,
actually,
yeah.
we have some
So-
extra outdoor lights. Actually, somebody gave us. They're colored lights. So.
Okay. Well, Bob, I think maybe we're running out of time, aren't we?
You and I can
Uh,
figure this, unless somebody else wants to be involved, you and I can figure this out and I can reach
Okay.
to Ginger
Okay.
and Jim
Okay.
and
Okay.
get their lights and
Okay.
we'll figure this out and a couple of step ladders and we'll get this thing all decorated.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So very good. You and I will talk and we'll get it decorated and up and running. Is there anybody else that has a question or anything about the holiday?
I would,
community?
I know
Community
George and I
holiday.
have mentioned before about making a donation, but I don't have a sense, Bob Klinger, how I have to believe that what you're, if it's fairly pricey, the Whately Inn, and we'd love to contribute.
Yes.
Can you give us a sense of, and I know Bob and Mary Ellen have done the desserts, and if you can give us a sense of what you're all paying, that would help us.
I'll reach out. I'll go back to Chip and ask him and just get a number from him. And then I will reach out to both you and George and just let you know.
And
Great.
Bob,
Okay.
Bob Smith, can you put in what you and Mary Ellen are also spending as well? And
Sure, but it's we got it. We
Yeah,
got it covered. We got it covered.
okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to do this. If we want the library to be integral in the town, then I'm happy to help make this part of but we can keep talking.
Yes,
Okay.
I know I would like to also help in that way too, Bob.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
You send that to all the trustees, because we may also want to contribute, even though we haven't spoken up yet, so.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Great. I put painting projects update. Everything's kind of on hold
That's
until we.
on- Exactly. That's on hold until we get the environmental testing done.
Yep. So I just wanted to put a sort of a punctuation mark on that for us. And then Cindy, resent the proposed budget. Is there any other discussion that we still have you heard yet when you have to have that budget in, Cindy?
No, I have not, and I just was
Okay.
hoping to be prepared, even if it means we have a couple of discussions before Pete says, oh, by the way, your budget's due, or your budget request is due this day, this time.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna meet in December, yes?
As far as I know, we are.
Yeah, okay. And so maybe if you probably won't have to present it in December, will you?
Usually, it used to be February, but then with everything that went on, it kind of got pushed to April. So
Okay.
I'm thinking
So-
somewhere between February and April.
All right, so we have time. Okay. I'll put that on the agenda again next month. Update on roof replacement project. I have applied to the CPC for $9,800. We have a bid from Florence Roofing, not a bid, an estimate for the work from Florence Roofing for I think it's $8,900, and I tacked on 10% for a contingency fund because, as you know, from our experiences in municipal buildings, something always goes wrong, and that's not a lot of money. And I submitted it, and Judy Markland has been in touch with me about it, and we apparently have done a good job in being able to actually do the replacement according to the Department of Interior standards. And now it's just a matter of going on Monday. Bob and I are meeting at 5 p.m. online with the Historical Commission to get their imprimatur on the project, and then it will get sent to the CPC, and it will be on the annual town meeting, I would assume. And that's about the size of where we are on the roof replacement project. Any questions for us? I think the thing that we have going for us is that you can't see that roof. It's so a historic building notwithstanding, you can't see that roof. Even if you were, the only way is if you had a drone. So you certainly can't see it from the street, and you can't even see it if you're standing next to the library or in the parking lot. So, and the Department of Interior said that we have to replace it with the same or a similar material. Well, you know, the material that's on there now is from the who knows when, and 20th century technology for flat roofs is a lot improved. So I think we've got a good solution. Plus, I did some research on the material that they're going to use, and it's one of the greenest materials for flat roofing possible, and it can save as much as 3.5% per annum on heating costs for the part of the building that it covers. So I think that's we're being very responsible with how we're approaching this. Any questions? Okay, is there other old business?
I have a
Yeah.
question under old business maintenance regarding. Back in September 2023, Rich Cooper sent out an estimate for sealing the basement or the cellar stairs. Is that something that the board is still looking into doing, or is that sort of on hold for now? Because I still have the estimate hanging out in my office.
You want me to address that? I'm happy.
Sure.
So the basement stairs, when he did the front steps, it would be a similar type application. I think it would be great to do, but I also think that building has a lot of other issues that need to be addressed first. That the basement stairs can be addressed with a pressure washer, and away we go.
So I can file away that estimate for now?
That's what I would recommend. Yeah, file it
Okay.
away.
Yeah,
I thought Larry Ashman came and did some of that work. Didn't
Oh, he
pressure
did.
wash?
he did.
That's why we don't have to worry about it right now. And
Okay.
yeah, no, it was fantastic what Larry did. And he did it just for that reason, because then, I mean, would it be great to do? Would it be helpful on 70-year-old concrete? Yeah. Is it the utmost urgency? No, not in my opinion. Another old agenda item, excuse me, the bench. I reached out to the Franklin County Tech School, their wood shop, as a, oh, I think we lost Bob.
Just stepped away, it looks like.
While he's away, Bob, I was very grateful for your putting the maintenance committee updates all on one page. Very helpful.
I was just trying to keep it as short and concise as possible, and this is item number 1.
Great.
I checked back with my contact there yesterday. He said, it was kind of cryptic. He said, you should hear in a couple of days. Let me know if you don't. But his comment when I reached out to him was, this is the kind of stuff that they look for, helping towns in Franklin County out.
Right.
And so he thought this was right up their alley. He thought this would be perfect. I haven't heard anything, but I'm just going to keep prodding. So,
Okay.
and then lastly, the fire alarm pull station installation update. They are coming this Friday. I'm going to let the technician in. I'm also going to make sure I reach out to JP beforehand. Thank you for this, Cindy. Reach out to JP because when they put it in test mode, JP gets an alert. So
Jim Savigny as well.
I was going to let JP handle that. I was going to let him, because isn't Jim James JP's second in command?
No, he's the chief of police.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, okay, I'll reach out to both of them. That's
Okay.
all I have.
All right. And so now, on new business, capital funding requests, we're sort of nowhere until we figure out what we have, what situation we have in terms of environmental testing. Funding requests. Cindy, do you have anything this month?
Not really, but a few months ago the board did vote that we would get the Magic Wings Butterfly Museum pass back, and they are being challenging to work with. They will not send me like an invoice that I can then submit to the town to get paid. They want someone to physically go in with a check, write out the check to them to get the pass, and then somehow magically we'll get reimbursed with our check from our check.
Well,
Do you want me to reach out to Sheila to see if the Friends would be willing to write out a check and do it that way?
sure.
Okay.
But you know what she's going to say.
I know, but I will reach out, and maybe if I explain the situation and say, you know, they're not going to do it, the only way they're going to do it is they need a check in hand in order for us to get the pass, that maybe.
And no one's going to give you a town of Whately check in hand unless you have an invoice.
Exactly. And I certainly don't have an extra $140 laying around that I can use my own personal money.
Okay.
All right. So that was all I
Appreciate it.
really have for funding requests right
Okay. Now, the next one was procedures for submitting agenda items. I used to you sort of put out just a blanket call if you have an agenda item, something that you want to discuss. I mean, legitimately, the number 6 is of our agenda is really for something that is totally unexpected that needs immediate action. We've been kind of using it as a catch-all for if we think of something at the meeting. But if you have anything you want to submit, 2 weeks from so right in the middle between our 2 meetings, the one we've had and the one we're going to have, if you could just send that to me. I usually try to get the agenda out way in advance so that people have plenty of time to take a look at it. But if you have an agenda item, just send it to me. And I can, I'd be happy to put it on the agenda under new business or wherever it belongs. But I would appreciate, I think it's better that we don't get close to the end of the meeting and then dive into some piece of new business which is remarkably complex. At least we have time to think about it. Okay. And then the last thing comes from me as the chair. All of us are part of a single operating unit, which is the Board of Trustees, and you have elected me to be chair, which is the person who's the spokesperson for the group. We need to be careful about conducting library business outside of the trustees knowing about the business that you intend to conduct. When we send Bob off on missions calling 15 different companies, we've agreed that that's what he should do. But for anybody to go to other boards in the town or other entities in the town and offer parts of the library or things in the library to them, or conduct what seems to be some sort of transactional agreement with them, is totally wrong. It needs to be always done in a public meeting, and the chair needs to be aware of these things so that I don't run into someone on the street who says to me, oh, by the way, so-and-so said you were going to do X, Y, and Z with these things. And I go, what? I never heard of this. So if you don't want me to continue as chair because I'm uncomfortable with that particular scenario, just let me know, and I'd be happy to pass the baton to anybody else. But I think that we need to be under the tent working together. And that's why I put that on there. And I would really appreciate it if you just, we talked about these things in open public meetings. Transparency is very, very important, and we're bound by the law to do that. Okay? Thank you for doing that. The one last item that doesn't appear there is we are approaching our 75th year of existence.
December 17th, 1950, the library officially opened to the residents and patrons of Whately. So we technically have a whole year till we get to December 15th for the actual 70th. So it doesn't hurt to start planning early. I have found some really neat historical information about the library that we can update to use from the 50th anniversary, and I believe also from the 60th. I think one of the first things we should discuss is swag. What do we want to sell for swag? Do we want to have a conversation with the friends and say, hey, here's a great way for you to do a passive yet successful fundraiser. We're having a 75th anniversary. Patrons are asking us about library bags again. For the 60th, they did a 60th anniversary. They had a really nice bag with a picture of the library on the front, celebrating 60 years and the dates. Is that something we want to start looking into, and something that we could even start selling before December? I do know exactly what I want my first event to be. I'm just trying to figure out which date I want it to be.
Okay. I think that we should really do it up because we missed our 70th because
We
it came in the middle of the COVID Express.
It did. It really did.
So we really kind of missed that. And then, Deborah, maybe you or George or someone knows the answer to this. I was looking up what you call a 75th anniversary of something. Well, I thought it was Diamond Jubilee. Well, it's not. Diamond is actually for the 60th.
Oh.
And I thought that when Queen Elizabeth celebrated her 75th year on the throne,
it was the Diamond Jubilee.
I thought it was called the Diamond Jubilee. So I did further research that says that sometimes it's used. So I'm at a loss as to what we're going to call this. So if you have any ideas, is this our Diamond Jubilee or not? I don't know. So
I do not know, but I will think about it.
yeah, okay. Because I thought it was Diamond Jubilee, and I looked at it and said, no, it's the 60th anniversary is the Diamond Jubilee. And I said to myself, I never heard of that. I always thought it was 75th. This paper is the first year and golden is
the
50th.
Platinum. I don't know.
Well,
Aluminum. I think the 25th is aluminum.
I think that the 75th might indeed be platinum.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Platinum.
Yeah.
Like a platinum card.
But I would just hate to use that as a logo and then find out that we're sort of etymologically incorrect. So
So
Okay.
the board as a whole will work on this, like
Oh,
we'll all work
yeah.
on this together as a
Absolutely.
whole board, as a
And maybe,
team.
maybe
Yes.
next year's holiday celebration, we can wrap it into
Oh,
the holiday
maybe
celebration.
Yeah.
maybe we could find out where the cake went from the 250th and just remove all the extra candles.
No, we're not doing that.
It's just a thought.
The birthday cake. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that originated in Westfield and went to Hatfield, then it went to Whately, then it went to Deerfield, and now it's in
Northfield.
to go to Northfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think Burniston's gonna get it next.
See, I think that's sort of exclusively for towns, but
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Anyways, we got lots to do between now and our next meeting, and everybody take a look at your calendar. I don't know, I want to kind of stay away from the holiday. Is the 11th of December
I
the Wednesday
could,
night?
I could just do double duty for a little bit that night, because Whately is part of the digital equity plan. For COG is having a meeting around the digital equity plan that starts at 5 and it goes to 6:30, but I'll just multitask and like have that meeting up and going and then come over here and start the library trustees meeting. And when that meeting's done, I'll just
Okay, so we're going to try to shoot for the 11th then?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
And a
gonna
6 p.
I'm gonna be traveling, but I will get the financials and I will get a maintenance committee update like I did this week. If I can't
Okay.
make it, I can't make it, but I'll try.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for the trustees at whately.org. That still hasn't.
don't be
I still don't
shy.
have
Come
that.
over and say
So,
hello. Look,
okay.
Steve has joined us for our meeting.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Oh, good.
Thank you for your work on the railing. Appreciate that.
I paid him in a cheeseburger.
Good. Okay. Well, folks, I guess we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I
Second.
second.
And I don't think there's probably any reason to ask, but all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
listening
much.
again,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
Good
Thank you for all
night.
your
I'm
work.
glad I made it.
Yes. Good to see you.
Bye.
Thank you.